Hey, what's going on, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits. But before we actually get to the show, I wanted to remind you guys that Talking in Bits is completely 100% audience funded. What that basically means is that you will never have to sit through no ads while you're listening to Talking in Bits. And the only way we can continue to do that and have been able to do that is with contributions and donations with great listeners such as yourself. So in order to keep that spirit alive, there's a few ways that you can actually donate to the show. My favorite way is Podcasting 2.0 apps. There's a bunch of them out there, but my two favorite are Fountain app and Breeze. And with these apps, it's basically like any other podcasting app. You can subscribe to Talking in Bits. You can load up some sats into the wallet, and you can set how many sats per minute you think Talking in Bits is worth or how much value you're receiving from Talking in Bits. You can do this from both of those apps. Another really cool feature in these apps, these Podcast 2.0 apps, is the Boost feature. And what the Boost feature is basically you get to pick a certain amount of sats that you want to send in, and you can embed a message inside of that transaction into the show. And what I'm going to do is, week to week, the best ones that come in, I'm going to read them and give shout outs here live on the show. So that's another way that you can help keep this ad-free and keep this content rolling. If you're not using the Podcast 2.0 apps, then you can head on over to talkinginbits.com/donate. And there you'll find various links to be able to send in Lightning, to be able to send on-chain, and even to Paynim. So go check out the website. That's another way to contribute. And if you're listening to us on the legacy outlets like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, then you could do the good old-fashioned leave a review, share, subscribe. All that stuff helps and helps us float up higher so more people can get this value and more people could get everything that we want to provide to our listeners. So once again, we appreciate you. The only reason we've been able to keep this up is because of y'all, and we want to keep that going for as long as we can. All right, without further ado, on to this week's episode.
Scarcity premium. Cannot exceed 21 million. The hardest money that has ever been invented.
I also made the case for owning Bitcoin. The quintessence of scarcity premium.
Scarcity premium.
It's literally the only large tradable asset in the world that has a known fixed maximum supply. By its design, the total quantity of Bitcoins cannot exceed 21 million.
Cannot exceed 21 million.
Bitcoin is the hardest money that has ever been invented.
If you don't have my private key, you cannot spend my Bitcoin, period. And this is the power of Bitcoin.
It's the first time we figured out how to create true property that you can take possession of with full custodial rights.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Talking in Bits, where we walk you through Bitcoin bit by bit so we can provide you with the information you need to succeed and persist. Back with episode 70, and I got pretty much the king of a city from what I hear from over here. I got Michael Atwood. What's going on, Michael?
Not much, man. How are you, Jose?
I'm doing well, man. I say that because every time I hear Michael's name pop up, it's like, hey, this is the king of Austin out here. He's making it happen.
Hey, I appreciate it. I would not consider myself the king by any means, but yeah, I mean, hey, I guess, yeah, maybe there's a little noise going on right now. Proof of work pays off, man. You know, people listen, people pay attention if you're putting in some work. So
yeah, I would replace the word noise with signal, man. All I hear from you is signal. You moving out here, you getting these businesses on board, which I'm sure we're going to talk about pretty soon here. But before we dive deeper, just for the listeners who may not be aware of the king, I'm messing with you, brother. But yeah, just let the listeners know a little bit about you and what you're working on right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the co-founder of Oshi app. So, you know, for the past few years, I've really been focusing on getting small businesses accepting Bitcoin. And it's been rough, man. I've learned a ton. So yeah, I was actually a travel nurse before this. I was up in Northern California. You got to get real close to that money printer, man. You got to get close to that. You know, healthcare is like 20% of the U.S. GDP, so they're
That's about as close as it gets.
That's about as close as it gets, man. So yeah, I was an ICU travel nurse, and just went deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Really, like on my first travel assignment, right, 2017. Oh, I went down the shitcoin rabbit hole first, and then I came out 2018 to dive into the Bitcoin rabbit hole. Started focusing on Lightning, and immediately was like, hey, I get it. I get this. This makes sense. I understand the why. It's time to talk about the how. And so that's what I've been doing, man. I've been like talking to hundreds and hundreds of businesses all over the country, whether it's in person or, setting up calls with them, trying to find a way to really jumpstart Bitcoin circular economies. I was kind of working on this as early as, I guess, like 2018. And then in June of 2021, whenever it was announced at Bitcoin 22, El Salvador. And of course, I'd already heard a bit about the Bitcoin Beach story. I was talking with some of the guys there. But once that announced, I was like, all right, going to El Salvador. Let's get in the thick of it. Let's try to sort this out even more, right? And man, I've just been trying to learn and put it into a product for quite some time now.
Yeah, so let's back up a second there. I would be hard pressed to, because I think it's fascinating. Everybody's different. So you went into the shitcoin rabbit hole. What was it that made you jump to the Bitcoin rabbit hole? Was it like a life event? Was it just like more like global politics shit that was going on in the world? What made you like figure it out? Like, oh shit.
Yeah, so this sounds like so bullshit, but it's so true. So I was backpacking in Patagonia, and during this time, get this up. During this time, I bought all this Litecoin, and I'm literally I'm on a bus to a different area of Patagonia, kind of the second stretch of the hike, right? And I have Litecoin. It's just freaking going. It went up 100% or 200%, from the time I got on the bus to the time I got off, right? It was maximum shitcoin mania, right? The blow off top. But anyway, during this time, I was actually listening to Atlas Shrugged on audiobook. I like being in nature, one foot in front of the other, a challenging hike, and then just listening to a book. It's just, I love that stuff.
It's magical.
So Atlas Shrugged, right? I mean, that is a powerful book. It's an introduction to self-sovereignty and kind of fuck the state and central planning. It's philosophy, right? So that was kind of my first foray into that. And then I come back home, and I think within a month or two, I went on another backpacking trip in California, and I listened to the Bitcoin Standard. Same thing, right? One foot for the other, climbing, and then I'm just listening to Bitcoin Standard. Safety's just blowing my mind, right? And I'm like, whoa, okay, I get this. And right away, I just never looked at any other shitcoin the same way again.
Yeah.
Right? So that was a big 1-2 punch for me. That changed everything. And, I wish everybody would kind of go on that path there. Get through Atlas Shrugged, then get on the Bitcoin, or, read the Bitcoin Standard, and then, it's over, man. There's no turning back.
I think I'm super late, and this must be coincidence of the world or whatever. So last week, I canceled my Audible subscription, and with the very last credit I had, I got Atlas Shrugged. Because I'm super late. I must be extremely late to the party. Everybody keeps telling me, Atlas Shrugged, and I'm like, I look at the Audible, and I'm like, this shit is 63 hours long. So I'm like, oh, shit. But since everybody's been telling me it's this great book, I wanted to pick it up. So I'm chapter 2 right now, very early on. But it gets me kind of bullish and hyped that you just said is, what is a philosophy book in a sense? And what is it about Atlas Shrugged that everybody loves so much? Or does everybody take something different?
Well, I guess Ayn Rand embedded this more self-sovereign. I forget what that philosophy is called. Is it something like egoism or anyway? I'm drawing a blank, but she kind of imbues this fictional story with some hardcore philosophy, anti-state, anti-communist philosophy. And it's not like the story is particularly riveting. Yeah, but it'll change your life in a way. It'll change the way you perceive things. And myself during that time in 2017, I hadn't dove into this area of philosophy.
Yeah.
And so this was an introduction. It was almost like a Trojan horse introduction into that. It definitely changes you. All you need to do now is go on a hike and just listen to this thing, hike, hike for like a few days, 12 hours a day, listen to it the whole time, you're done.
Dude, that's not a hike. That's more of like a stay, 12-hour days. I got kids, man. They'll kill me if I try to do something like that.
Right. Oh, take them with you. Yeah. Hey, share the Audible with them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. We do short walks, but I'm over here in Massachusetts, and it's, I'm not going to say there's nowhere to actually have hikes, but it's just not as open. I live in the suburbs of a city, so it's not as open as, let's say, Austin is or stuff like that. So
right.
And even that, Austin is a city in itself, just not like the city we got up here in the Northeast, which is like more like a metropolis, right? Like it's a concrete jungle more than it is anything else.
Totally.
I'm gonna have to do that.
Maybe once you get some time, one of these days, get off work and be like, hey, family, we're going on the Appalachian Trail.
We're going to be gone for 3 days. We'll be back.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to try to, man. But no, that's, once again, coincidence, Atlas Shrug. So now because I was a little bit puzzled in the beginning. This is like the 35th anniversary version or whatever. So the intro was more like, about the author and stuff. So I ain't gonna lie, I was a little bit turned off. Like in the beginning, I'm like, but I'm going to stick with it because everybody keeps telling me this is the book right here. So
it's one of those, man, like this book took me years. I had started it in 2015, like just to get an idea. And by start, I was reading it, and then, I was going through nursing school. I was going through nursing school, and I didn't have a whole lot of time, but I got started. But it was it took a while, man.
Yeah.
And then I really jumped back into it in 2017. Yeah.
Gotcha. So before we pivot into Bitcoin, into Oshi, into the economy, because I do really want to focus on that stuff. So you got nursing background, and then COVID hits. I know the COVID conversation is completely exhausted. I know everybody's talked about it, but I do think that, what I would call the frontline workers in that situation. I actually worked in the operating room during COVID. So I was a frontline sense. I like to hear how the experience was for the frontline workers. So walk me through it, man. Whatever step you want to take when you heard about it, any crazy shit that happened to you in your job, or talk me through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we first started hearing rumblings of it, on Twitter. It kind of permeated and made its way in through Twitter. And it's like, oh, this could be really bad. And then, oh, this is going to be really bad. And so that was kind of the narrative initially. It's like, we don't know anything about this. Oh, there's people dropping dead in the streets and all this, in China, whatever, all these things. And so for me, initially, I was taking a lot of caution. So the hospitals, where I was in Northern California, they didn't implement anything. I don't need them to implement shit. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Right. So I did start wearing a mask. As the narrative started building, it became, it was a little scary for a moment there, right? You're we don't know what we don't know. So I'm just going to take precaution. I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks.
Word. Yeah.
And actually the hospitals started coming at me and saying that, hey, you have to take your mask off. You can't wear the mask around here. You're scaring the patients. And I'm like, this is a bunch of bullshit. I'm going to wear my mask. Because the cool thing is, as a travel nurse, I can be like, fuck you. I'll go to another hospital. I'm in high demand. This is how this goes. It's like a distributed life, decentralized lifestyle. You're like, whatever, man. All right, there's another hospital that I'll go to. But very quickly, right, as I was starting to develop a sense of, hey, actually, I don't think this is all that bad. It's not all it's cracked up to be. It seems a little overblown. Then the hospitals all started freaking out. And the whole country started freaking out. So now I was like, I don't really think I need this mask. And then they're like, oh, we're going to fire you if you don't wear a mask. This happened so fast.
Yeah.
So it was like, I got a firsthand look into how these, big healthcare systems work and how they don't know what the fuck's going on. They're all just kind of flying by the seat of their pants. They're implementing this rule, they're implementing that, they're saying this, you're saying that. So front row seats. And in terms of the patients, for the longest time, the hospital was still empty. So not to say that, other hospitals weren't filling up and everything, but keep in mind, as a travel nurse, they are in demand because hospitals are full a lot. Max capacity a lot. They need more help. So for me, typically working in hospitals such as these, I didn't see anything different. Oh, patients are in the hospital's more busy. But over time, yes, it got more busy. Also, the rules got like, and the different procedural things got more complicated. You know, oh, you got to do this, oh, you got to do that, which actually increased the burden and like the need for more labor. Oh, we got to separate this, we got to separate that, we got to do this room, we got to open up this, we got to open that. You know, because you couldn't put patients together, or you couldn't do things you once did. So it actually increased the need and the demand for more staff, and it overworked the staff too. Like, so I'm kind of just ranting here, but yeah, what I saw was I was taking care of effectively. Hey, this is anecdotal for people, but this is literally what I saw. I have no skin in this game to like talk shit, right? I'm taking care of the same patients, the same type of patients, 99.9% of the time that I was already taken care of, except now they have COVID. And yeah, like, no, COVID, it definitely like messed up their lungs for sure. Like it was different. Like it was definitely different than what I was used to, but it was the same type of patients, right?
Yeah.
It was the same patient population, at least in the ICU setting.
Go deeper in that. What do you mean, same type?
So like, let's say
overweight?
Different comorbidities like diabetes, like, you know, maybe heart failure, you know, liver, kidney, the same type of patient population. Gotcha. To where if you would have, aside from kind of the link that patients would stay on the ventilators, because that also increased, again, a lot of these patients, they would stay on the ventilator for a very, very long time. Whereas normally they would maybe get over something like a pneumonia or something quicker.
Yeah.
So then the bed would clear out. But if you're having a patient like stay in the hospital maybe like 20 days or 30 days, not like all of them, but some of them, then that bed is taken up for an extended period of time, more than we're used to. And hospitals already run at like max capacity most of the time anyway. Yeah. So that's whenever it gets to, oh, the beds are filling. Well, yeah, because, you know, and again, maybe this is something that like you and I can understand more than maybe people that are listening on the podcast. But the general thing is like, you know, in the ICU setting, especially, like a lot of these patients are, a lot of them, we're just keeping them alive. We're prolonging their demise. We're not necessarily helping them. And with COVID, I think how shocking it was for people. I mean, there would be people that were clearly very unhealthy, and the family's like, oh, they were so healthy. It's just this COVID that got them. And it's like, you know, that's just false. And I think what that led a lot of family members to do is to say, you know, let's keep it going. Like they're going to beat this. Like this is, and since they couldn't even be physically present in the hospital to see their loved one suffering on like the ventilator, sedated, whereas normally they would go, yeah, let's stop it here. We can't keep doing this. Just kept going because we would literally like keep families out of the hospital. Yep. No, you can't see them. Oh, don't worry, we're going to FaceTime you. So they have no real connection. Whereas normally they would say, hey, we're done here, you know?
Yeah.
And it just perpetuated the thing. And, you know, anyway, there's a lot that goes into it that no one really fully understands, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I saw a lot of that stuff on my end as well. And, you know, I don't know about you. Did you ever get to the point, and we don't have to stay on this forever, but did you ever get to the point where like, because of the actions that you were given or orders you were given from leadership, your virtues came into question, where you were basically saying like, all right, enough of this shit. You know, I need to do something about this. Get the fuck out of here is what I was thinking for me. But it was like, they obviously have, I hate to use the word agenda because it sounds very conspiracy theorish. But, you know, some of the orders I was getting when I would get into work would be like, what are you guys up to? Like, why wasn't this like this yesterday? And now all of a sudden you guys are saying like family members could come in, or some crazy fucking rule, or the ventilator thing where they kept them on for a certain amount of time that before was even unheard of. Were your virtues ever in question? Did you ever?
I was already kind of struggling with this for a while because I started to realize that, again, this is the ICU setting. So like you get a lot of the same types of patients. I'm not here to say what they should or shouldn't have done, right? I'm just saying they had a very unhealthy lifestyle for a very long time. And, this is the outcome. I'm not here to judge them, but the reality is, like, a lot of the patients that we saw in and out of the ICU, we kept seeing them. It's a revolving door. We're not helping them. Like, for some, it's too late. We can help them in the interim, but they'll be back later, and it's very unfortunate. So on that note, it became more apparent to me especially the more I started understanding the fiat standard about how broken all of this stuff is, and how broken the incentives are, and how the hospital, again, like I mentioned earlier, we're not fixing these people. We're prolonging their demise, and these big, whatever insurance, pharmaceutical companies are profiting massively off of prolonging these people, while also sucking in a massive amount of capital that could be better spent elsewhere.
Yeah.
To healthcare, whenever it's just so broken. So it really started making me question things, and I definitely came at it like, I got to get out of here. I mean, you probably understand this too. Like, we're getting into it here, but it's like, I'm sitting here, like, listening to a podcast about how Bitcoin's going to fix the fucking world. And I'm sitting here, like, learning and already interviewing businesses and trying to insert Bitcoin into economies, and trying to craft the best narrative and pitch for businesses to want to say yes, and consumers to want to say, yes, I want to use it. I want to enter the Bitcoin economy. I'm doing all this while I'm, like, wiping someone's ass at the hospital. And I'm over here like,
fuck.
I'm trying to literally, like, trying to build a better world and a better future. And I'm sitting here making good money, wiping someone's ass.
Yeah.
And that started getting to me a lot. Not to say I'm, too good for that, but it's like, So then I was like, you know what? I've been stacking some sats. I've been putting my time in. I just need to take some time off, and I need to focus only on Bitcoin and just do it. I'm not a rich man. I need to take some time, and I need to focus all of my efforts on this and do the best I can. Like, Oshi's totally self-funded. We've raised no money. There's a tiny team, and we're trying to start a movement, right? We're trying to educate others on how they can get businesses set up. Like, we're trying to push this forward, and fortunately, the whole Bitcoin community and all these other Bitcoin businesses are trying to do the same too. So
yeah, that
was empowering for me. I was like, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah, it's very funny how we align in that sense. I didn't start my own business, but what just to kind of go backwards, how shitty the incentives are. So I worked in the OR. We were the equipment team, and the lady who sat, maybe 2 feet away from me, she was the one that was in charge of, like, billing, right? Like, all this stuff that was happening. So there's a few facets here. I remember the conversations in that office of charging a patient $600 for a Band-Aid, right? Like, this crazy amount, and, like, people would just laugh at it, right? And then the other side of it is I would be in the area of like the bullshit ass surgeons that just got their new Tesla and got their new whatever, and how much they would talk shit about the people that they were supposed to be trying to help and supposed to be trying to save, just because they knew at the end of the day, the insurance was going to give them that big check regardless what the outcome was, whether the patient was better or not. And like you said, as I'm, like, sitting here listening to, maybe Bitcoin Standard, maybe some of these podcasts, I'm like, I got to do something. I can't be in this environment where I'm the only one that realizes that this shit is wrong. This shit is just nasty. Right. So I didn't start my own business, but that's when I went heavy on trying to find, like, a Bitcoin job, right? Mm-hmm. And I applied at a bunch of them. Thankfully, I like to say Bitcoin saved me. 4 months before the hospital was going to mandate the COVID vaccine, I got a job at Unchained Capital.
Nice.
And there is when hey, I got mine underneath. Same exact one. Shout out to Unchained. Not an ad, but shout out to Unchained.
Shout out.
But yeah, that literally propelled me to the situation to where I'm at now, to where, my family's good, where I'm more knowledgeable of the world, more aware of the world. That's changed a lot of my worldviews. Bitcoin has, as it has for all of us, I'm sure. And now I'm actually transitioned down to Austin, and I'm meeting great people like you, and some of our peers that we have in common. And it's like, damn, if I didn't if Bitcoin was not introduced to me, like I would be miserable with a mask on and some goggles at an OR, probably with a COVID vax or two in my body, and just wondering why I couldn't do any better. And here I am having this conversation. So
right, yeah, similar paths, man.
Yeah, fascinating as shit. All right, let's get to Oshi, man. So let's walk the listeners through Oshi. I mean, I know it's a way to get, like you said a little while ago, to get businesses onboarded onto Bitcoin. But give me a little bit of detail from both sides, meaning, you know, the consumer, the person that's the client of the business, and the business itself. How does Oshi help serve both those people?
Right. So let's start with the businesses first. I think there's a lot of people out there, and again, the reason for this is we don't have some crazy marketing budget. there's two of us with a few other people helping out, like minimally, because they love Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people view Oshi as like, oh, okay, so like you must compete with Strike, or like you must be a competitor with like OpenNote or IBEX, or like, so you must be setting these businesses up with like some Oshi payment provider. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Businesses can use any Bitcoin payment provider they want, and we can help them find customers by allowing them to promote their products and services on our application, you know, their promotions, their sats back rewards, and just put them on the map for other Bitcoin enthusiasts and inevitably normies to discover, right? So whenever a customer makes a purchase from one of these businesses, you know, maybe this business says, hey, we're going to sell you this beer. We're going to give you 21% sats back because we want Bitcoin, right? We want to take a small dip and maybe even swim in the Bitcoin economy, right?
Yeah.
But we're just gonna get our feet wet first. The customer can make a purchase with any Bitcoin, you know, Lightning wallet they want. And the business, you know, they're effectively sending that payment straight to that business's own personal Bitcoin payment provider, whether it's a fully KYC'd, you know, provider like Strike or OpenNote or whatever, or it's like something like IBEX, where it's like super fast setup, 5 minutes, you know, you can accept Lightning payments, or they run their own BTC Pay server. We got them covered. Or if you're a small business in El Salvador selling pupusas on the street corner and you have a Bitcoin Beach wallet, we can plug into Bitcoin Beach wallet too. So I think it's something that's just always on my mind now that I need to do a better job of explaining. We are not the payment provider. We are not the wallet. We are a tool for weaponized Bitcoin evangelism, if you're a Bitcoiner, to show businesses in your community how they can start interfacing with the Bitcoin economy and bring in, you know, new customers and, you know, start accepting payments and start, you know, actually holding on to some Bitcoin on your business's balance sheet. And we're a way for consumers to find great deals. So let's say you're a normie and you're like, so all I have to do is use Cash App. And if I buy this coffee through Oshi, I'm going to get 10% back in free Bitcoin. And it's like, yes.
That's it.
So we're trying to orange pill the normies too through incentives. It's like, as a business owner, think about this. If the business owner could give a little tiny sliver of Tesla stock every single time their consumer bought a cup of coffee, dude, they would be all over that. Like 10 cents in Tesla stock. Imagine the craze of people, right? What we're offering is far superior, right? And it's actually legal because they can't sit there and give securities to their customers, right?
Yeah, right.
That's illegal.
Yeah.
But they can give them something better, and that's Bitcoin rewards. So we can create a network effect for small businesses, not stupid coffee points, not square stars, not punch cards. We can get these small businesses on a platform, a Lightning native Bitcoin marketplace, to generate a network effect and empower them and empower people in their community to just take their first steps into Bitcoin. That's what Oshi is.
Yeah, and no, just as we know as Bitcoin, no discrimination, right? Like this could be a 16-year-old with a Lightning wallet that comes in that doesn't have a bank account that could come in and get some sats. It could be a 52-year-old person that comes in It could be an unbanked person that comes in. It doesn't matter. You can reward them and they can reward you. I think that's extremely magical.
That's right. I mean, imagine just on that, I'll have to piggyback off that real quick.
Sure.
Like Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, they control the rewards. The card issuers, Chase, they control the rewards. You swipe your card, they'll go, we'll give you 2% back. We'll give you 1% back. Sometimes more, sometimes less.
Where you get 2%, bro? You crazy. They give you like 0.5% back.
Yeah, okay, see, I don't even know anymore, man.
Yeah, right.
So the crazy thing is that Visa controls all that. And furthermore, I'm picking on Visa, like just the card issuers, the payment processors, they control that, okay? Small businesses through Bitcoin rewards, they can control what they want to give back to their customer, and they can utilize a far more equitable monetary network with or without actually holding the Bitcoin. If they don't want to, right? They can still get their dollars.
Yeah.
And instead of giving 2, 3, 4%, more even, depending on the cost of the item and whether it's online or in store, to the Visas and the JP Morgan Chases of the world, every single time your customer swipes their card, you can keep it all local.
Yeah.
You don't have to give all this percentage to major corporations. You don't have to give it to Wall Street anymore with Lightning. You can keep it in Main Street. That's profound. We can go back to like the days of cash where I give you $5 and that's between me and the business. The processing fee is $0. The privacy is there.
Yeah.
No need permission.
Amazing.
The settlement is final and instant. Lightning offers us the ability for the first time in a long time, well, the first time ever, to have cash just digital, right? That is incredibly empowering for local businesses, their consumers, and like the economy. So we're here to empower these small businesses, man.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing that too. Another part of that is like you can, like you said, keep it on Main Street, but like now you could get more clever with that 3.5%, right? Which is like, hey, I'm gonna give you back 2%, still keep 1.5, and we're good. We could break even here, like and have some fun with this. I think that's magical, Ben. I haven't, here where I'm at, there's nobody doing it. Maybe it's my fault for not trying to help people do it, but like there's just nowhere where I can actually spend Lightning. But I can't wait to get to an arena or a city like Austin or anywhere else where that becomes the case, right? And then your Oshi app is prevalent in my wife's and I's conversations because she's a baker, and one of her big goals when she gets down to Austin is to open up a bakery.
That's amazing.
So I told her right off the bat, like Oshi came to mind, and I've been watching you guys from a distance and all that. And I'm like, hey, love, you can actually now, what we just talked about, like now people could come in. Not only is it a Bitcoin community, but they're going to want to support, they're going to want to give you that. And you can give them incentives back with that 3.5 that you would have been giving away to Visa. And yes, we're going to keep picking on Visa. Fuck it.
May as well.
But
man.
yeah, that's magical work. So how is it on the background, right? So is it that, I give a price and then the incentive that I'm giving to the customer comes out of me, right? It's not coming out of Oshi or anything.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. It's coming out of the business owner. And the reality is like a lot of these business owners are already running different specials. So we don't necessarily have to say, oh, like you're going to have to do something you haven't already done. It's like, we're just going to get you plugged into Bitcoin and create an incentive structure that is far more valuable while saving you money at the same time. So like, for example, a business I went in this morning, we do a Bitcoin breakfast every Tuesday morning at the Meteor Coffee Shop. They already have a rewards program with Toast. They already do. You get $5 as like a voucher for every $50 you spend. That's 10%. That's 10%. Yeah. They're already doing it. So we go, hey, you want to do 10% on like coffees and Bitcoin rewards? Like, why are we keeping it to dollar? They already do it. Many businesses already do this. Say a happy hour special. Let's just reframe it. Let's not say 30% off. Let's say 30% in free Bitcoin. Like that's a way to get the average individual to like turn their head a little bit and like, wait, what? Free Bitcoin whenever I buy this? I mean, people already do this, right? I mean, they could say like, whenever you buy a gift card, they could just say, oh, you get 5% off. No one gives a shit about that. It's psychologically, they go, no, I want to get something free. Like, I don't know, growing up in Texas, I don't know if like how big like Kohl's is all over the country, but I don't know, in Texas, they're everywhere. Right. And so like, they always had like this Kohl's cash, right? And it's basically like, it's basically like, I mean, and in general, this is how it is, right? Like, you're going to pay the full price sometimes, and then they'll like have you like, they'll keep your change, right? It's like, and you can use it as Kohl's credit. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you don't actually get, like, they're just keeping your change. Like, you're going to pay $100. Here's your Kohl's credit or whatever. You can like apply the credit or whatever too, but maybe Kohl's is the best example. But like, let's just say any business where they're going to like, instead of like Visa, MasterCard, you're going to pay the full price, but then they're going to give you 1% back that they're going to hold and keep for you. Like, why don't they just give you 1% off? Like, because no one gives a shit about that. That's why. Yeah,
exactly. Right? Now, in the example with the $50 and get $5 off or whatever, is that like the typical fiat version is you have to spend up to $50 to get this? And the Bitcoin example, can it be like, no, you get 5% off every coffee or every time you scan?
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't that be nice, right? You could do whatever. I mean, they could cater it to whatever they need. I mean, I saw today, not only did they have that, but then they also had like, if you subscribe to our reward system, I think they gave like 25 points right away.
Sweet.
Which basically equates to $2.50 in this case. So like, they're giving you $2.50. Imagine like right away, whenever you like say, download the Oshi app and buy your first coffee, they're going to give you $2.50 of Bitcoin. Like, what? Like, they're already doing this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of like reframing it, and whether that's saying, imagine for a minute. You got to hold their hand. You know? Imagine for a minute you could give a sliver of Tesla stock to your customers. And they're like, oh, yeah, everyone loves Tesla stock. Like, imagine something far better and legal to do, right?
Right.
Like, it's all about the frame, man. We do such a good job of explaining why, but like, we're just not as good yet of the how, and we're getting there.
Yeah, and it's a rabid community. Like, it's one of those that they want that. Like, I've seen Bitcoiners do the craziest thing to get that dollar back in sats. Like, so to say, hey, I could get my coffee in the morning and get some sats, I'm sure that'd be game. So what is the business owner kind of? I want to talk about like how you orange pill or how it's been going in that, but like when they finally say yes, I'm down. What is it that they need to have to get started? I've heard you've gotten people on board in like 5 minutes. Yeah. I don't know if that's true. So like, what would a business owner need to know or have once they say, yes, this is it?
Yeah. So like I said, I've spoken to a lot of business owners. So oftentimes I first kind of get an idea of how their business operates. Like, what point of sale do they use? Are they online only? Are they brick and mortar? Are they both? What do they use for the website? What do they use for their e-com? Do they have gift cards? Do they not? Should they? Are they already running specials? Are they like, so there's a lot that goes into it initially. From there, knowing what I know about all the different payment providers, I've spent a lot of time playing around with them. My co-founder built out a lot of the custom integrations for them. Like, we know how they work. We know which ones are better at this and which ones are better at that. We've built out integrations where the company goes under. So like, shoot. So we're a lot more selective. We've just seen a lot at this point. We've been doing this a while. So we generally have a really good idea of what's the best payment provider for them. So once we determine that, IBEX is really awesome for brick and mortar businesses specifically. And if that's the case, and if they just want to hold Bitcoin, it's a 0.5% fee, and I can get them set up in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. They can go from, somebody can literally go from not even knowing what the hell Bitcoin is to accepting Lightning payments and training their staff on how to do it, because it's that easy, in under 10 minutes. That's it.
That's crazy.
And then from there, we go, hey, like, do you want to plug into Oshi? So you accept Bitcoin now. Great. Do you want to promote that you accept it? Do you want to incentivize people to use it? Because that's how we win, is through incentives.
Right.
Visa, MasterCard, America's, all those card issuers and payment processors, they didn't win by just saying, hey, it's an easier way to pay. Like that took time, man. Whenever the cards first came out, it was a knuckle buster, it was a carbon copy. You go chink, like that stuff is not easy, man. Employees hated that. People hated that. There was nothing easy about that, right?
Yeah.
But over time, the experience improved, much like the experience is improving with Lightning and Bitcoin. But more importantly, the incentives. They said, if you use this card, we're going to give you back rewards. If you spend $2,000 this month on your card, we're going to give you $300 cash back. Remember all that stuff? And you had people that were like churning cards. They have like 10 credit cards and they spend as much as they can and they get the rewards. Like they pay it off at the end of every month and everything to just get those rewards, right? But that hooked everybody. Because in 2010, whenever the credit card rewards programs really started getting crazy, the points guy, remember that guy? He was literally like how to leverage credit cards to freaking travel the world and whatever, all that bullshit, right? And it worked out well for some people. But 2010, all right? 2010, take a wild guess. What percentage of let's say, like, what percentage of commerce was done online? Because typically a card was used for like online payment. Like, take a wild guess.
Yeah.
2010, what percentage of commerce was done online?
Man, you're gonna put me in fiat jeopardy here.
No, you're good, man. Take a wild guess. It's shocking.
Yeah. Let's say 30%. I don't know.
5%.
2010.
Okay. We had the freaking iPhone. We had, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting a little help. I don't know. We had Airbnb. We had all these things.
Sure.
Buy stuff online. 5% of total retail commerce in the United States. Everyone had internet. Most people at that point had smartphones. 5% of retail commerce was done online. So these card issuers, they go, well, shit. How do we reach the 95%? Like, we can't just rely on like 5% of sales to be online, because that's more or less sort of what really took us to the next level, right?
Yeah.
How do we get involved in every single transaction? Not just online, but in store, in person. You provide the incentives. You get people to spend with these cards everywhere they go, no matter what they're buying.
Yeah.
Cash is done. If you use cash, you get nothing. If you use this card, we basically charge the merchant 3% plus, and then we give you 1% back.
That's so
right?
Nice.
Right. And what the thing is, these merchants would increase the cost of their products and services naturally, without even like thinking about it, to offset the cost of the merchant fee. So what's happening really is the customer is paying 3% more, and the banks are going to give you 1% back.
Yeah.
So you're still paying 2% more. And people that don't use or have cards at all, to recoup even that 1%, get fucked.
Yeah.
That's what they did. That's what they're still doing. We're going to use that against them. We're going to weaponize Bitcoin.
And even the people that are paying just in dollars are they may not be getting that 1% back, but they're still paying the higher price.
They're still paying a higher price. Exactly. So it's actually, they're actually subsidizing the people that use the cards. It's just a lose-lose. There's no winners except the banks.
Right.
The banks. They're the only ones that win.
That's a common trend, isn't it, nowadays?
It's a common trend. Right. So what we can do, the power that we have with Bitcoin, is we can incentivize consumers with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
While simultaneously lowering the processing cost of the business. And through that, they can basically arbitrage the payment processing fees and give it back to the customer to effectively kick all these payment providers and, Visa, MasterCard card issuers out of the local economy. Now, there's still a caveat to that. Like, at this point in time with Lightning, with Bitcoin, well, you just have to use a Bitcoin service provider now. So they're in the middle of it, but they charge way less fees.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it on your own, you can. Okay, that's the really important part. If you want to do it on your own, you can.
Yeah.
Try processing a Visa card on your own.
Yeah. End up in jail.
You can't do that. So that's the really important thing for those that be like, oh, well, it's still, are you still using centralized services? Well, these services are really cheap, and in my opinion, instead of the fees going up on them, they're going to keep going down.
Yeah.
And then the businesses can literally just opt out and run their own BTC Pay server at some point, whenever it makes sense.
Yeah. And the people that are like the customers can do the same thing. Like, yeah, you can run on Cash App and you can go ahead and pay and go through your KYC Cash App Lightning, but you could just pull out your Zeus wallet and then you could just pay with sovereign sats that you mined, last week or whatever and do the same exact thing. So the option is definitely there.
Exactly.
That's a conversation I've been having lately a lot too, which is like a lot of people are thinking that Lightning is leaning towards more like a custodial, like a PayPal 2.0. And then there's like the real maxis that are like, nah, bullshit. You could just spin up your own node and do all that. And in the conversations I've been having lately, it's the fact that we can do either one is the magic, right? Like you can choose and go whichever way you want is the magical part. But I don't want to lean towards one or the other, right? Like I don't want it to be extremely difficult so I use grandma as the example, so that grandma can't use it, right? But I also don't want to lose the sovereignty as somebody who's really deep into it and has my own node to be able to do that if I choose to. That's a weird balance to strike, but we need to strike.
Exactly. I mean, that's like the profound thing right now. Exactly. Like you can do either one. And the cool thing is the incentives are such that over time, as the volumes increase, as these businesses are accepting more Bitcoin, as Bitcoin becomes more ingrained in the lives of individuals, as the experience, the UI, UX improves. I mean, it's already not that bad, really. Like, it's actually not bad at all.
No.
I don't think we have a UX problem. I think we just have an education problem. But as all of this gets better, businesses and consumers do have the option to stop using third-party services and do it themselves, right? Which should, at the right volumes, be cheaper. So the incentives are such that businesses and consumers will be incentivized to do it themselves as opposed to relying on a third party. Whereas, like you said, there's no choice with the traditional system. You have no choice. And furthermore, like as more and more people use these centralized services because they literally can't use anything else other than cash, which they're going to do away with, then the fees keep going up. It's the opposite. The fees go up, the fraud goes up, the centralization goes up, communism goes up. Bitcoin's the opposite. The fees will get lower. The distribution will get greater.
Yeah.
Like that is, again, the crazy part about it. Like, it's just like I talked to a business owner today. I got him set up with IBEX. He's like, well, it would be cool to do BTC Pay Server. I'm like, yeah, you could do BTC Pay Server. That would be awesome. Like, he's like, I just don't know the technicals. I go, you can use something like Voltage. Yeah, you can spin up the node, but it's going to cost you maybe like $15, $20 a month. Don't quote me, but it's going to cost you. So unless he's having like a high amount of volumes, he would rather just pay the 0.5% to IBEX because that's not going to be $20 a month.
Right.
We're just still dipping our toes in. But again, what happens is once they reach that threshold where they're spending $20 a month in fees, then they are incentivized to do it themselves or to become more self-sovereign. But that also incentivizes IBEX to lower their fees too. Like,
sure.
It's just it's a race to the bottom, man. Like Jack Mallers is absolutely right about that. Like we're seeing it play out in real time right now.
Yeah.
And furthermore, the cost to incorporate fiat or to attach to fiat is going to be night and day. I mean, you want to pay more? You want to do all this KYC, KYB bullshit? Yeah, use fiat. You're going to have a great time.
Right.
You just use Bitcoin. And it's easier, right?
Yeah, and even in the $20, if it is that with like a Voltage or whatever, like if you were to add up the 3.5% that you're paying on every Visa swipe in your business, that $20 becomes a wash. Like
100%.
That's just that's a no-brainer there in that situation. All right, so another avenue that I've been very curious to explore. So we know the benefits when it comes to the business. We know the benefits of having an economy, but a lot of people are still on the HODL mentality where they really don't want to spend these sats, right? Like, what's your thought on that? Like, do you think it's a really good thing for Bitcoiners to want to spend their sats, or is it a balance? What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, first and foremost, it's all about the incentives.
Yeah.
Like, look, if there's a business owner that wants your Bitcoin, they're trying to scam you out of there. Like everyone's a scammer, right? They want your Bitcoin. then they're going to be incentivized to give you a discount if you pay with Bitcoin. All right.
Yeah.
So people can say, "Oh, I'm just gonna hodl till I die." Well, like, hey, you expect the price of Bitcoin to go up 10% at this very second? Then maybe it's better for you to spend and replace. So you can get the 10% discount right now. Your money goes your Bitcoin goes 10% further than it otherwise would at this moment in time, and then you can just buy $10 more. It's not a big deal, right? Okay, let's say like the UX of that sucks. Let's say like, oh, I got to do this, then I got to spin and replace. Okay, first of all, it's not that bad. You can go on Strike, you can smash by Bitcoin and whenever you want. You can go on a bunch of different services, right? So then the second option to that is, okay, like spend Jack Mallers' Bitcoin. Strike, connect your bank account. And then they're going to go, oh, well, like, then it's like KYC and that sucks and that's not real Bitcoin. Okay, then swipe your fucking card.
Yeah.
Like, okay, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
Like, fuck over the business every single time you spin. Fuck it, and you're still getting all your data swiped. Like, I don't think you're paying in cash whenever you go buy your coffee. Like, let's get real. So, like, a lot of this stuff is like making perfect the enemy of good. Like, people are like, oh, like, you don't want to, we can't do that. It's not perfect. It's like, look, like, you're going to swipe your card otherwise. Like, let's be real, man. Come on. That's what you're already doing. Like, may as well save the business money and use Strike to pay or something, right? Because what that's going to do is that is going to create this wave. Businesses are going to be more willing to accept Bitcoin if their customers willing to pay with it, right? It's going to line the pockets of Strike. It's going to line the pockets of Bitcoin payment providers. It's going to give them more capital with which they can build out infrastructure that is necessary and needed to kind of really get this Bitcoin circular economy going.
Yeah.
And if all else fails, they're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Oh, I pay with cash. Oh, this, oh, that. All right, fine. Like, go ahead. Like, no hard feelings.
Yeah.
But there's going to come a point in time, in my opinion, in which you're not going to have any other choice. Right. And that transitionary period, once inflation starts getting really bad and businesses start to recognize that they have to accept Bitcoin, well, they want to accept Bitcoin. Imagine the premium, the discounts they are going to give if you pay with Bitcoin, right?
Right.
And maybe even some of them just say, look, we don't accept anything other than Bitcoin. Now that's going to come with time. Like, that's a ways away. But furthermore, just preparing businesses for that, whatever, spend $5 and buy your cup of coffee at a local coffee shop that accepts Bitcoin. Like,
right.
Buy an extra $5 of Bitcoin this week. Like, you know what I mean? So I would just say a lot of times if people like are really hard about that, frankly, I just think it's either a bit of LARPing or honestly, it's probably just ignorance with the fact that there are really easy ways to spend your Bitcoin without actually spending your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, spend Jack Mallers' Bitcoin.
That's a bunch of good points there.
Yeah.
The LARPing is 100% LARPing. I mean, like you just said, like for you to come to me and tell me, fam, I'm not going to KYC my Bitcoin, but then go swipe your card like 5 seconds later is just the most idiotic thing I've ever heard. And then I don't think people understand, like people say the word like, economy and but I don't think they understand that in order for it to be an economy, it needs to be transacted. People need to, like, you're not going to have an economy of holographic Charizard Pokemon cards, right? Because everybody's just holding this one card and they don't want to give it up. You need to have something that moves around. So and if you want to use the fiat example, well, when you get your paycheck, you put some away for savings and then you have a bunch left over to spend. Right. So if you get paid in Bitcoin or if you have all your Bitcoin, you put some away to HODL and then you spend some of the other ones at the local shops and restaurants and get your discount on. It's probably LARPing. The people that are saying this stuff is LARPs.
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff. Like recently I saw a lot of Monero talk in my Twitter feed and like, I love the privacy aspect. That's cool. Like people align on that, but I still think it's a total shitcoin. Yeah. I mean, like, look, somebody messaged me the other day. I mean, I don't want to talk about this much, but it's just funny. And it's like, they're like, which businesses are accepting Monero? And I'm like, I think he said something like, yeah, but do you feel comfortable whenever you pay with Lightning that it's not private? And I'm like, yo, you're not going to have to worry about privacy with Monero because no one's going to fucking accept that shit. Like, look, man, you're going to be perfectly private because like you're not gonna be able to
Yeah.
spend it. I
You
mean,
trade it with yourself.
I'm joking a little bit, like, yeah, sure. Like, of course, there are some businesses that accept it, and that's fine. Like, I'm not like shitting on it, but I'm just like, look, we gotta be
Yeah.
honest with ourselves here. Like, that's another thing. It's like, I'm not gonna spend unless it's totally private. All right, use cash. Like, Monero drops in value far more than fiat currency. So, like, look, I mean, why not just use fiat currency then? I mean, anyway, that's just been on my mind a little bit. I'm not triggered
It's-
at all. It's just a funny thing. It's been popping up
It is
everywhere.
frustrating though. Like when you get these people that are like, you could tell they're super overthinking the decision. Like it's like, man, like, yeah, you could do whatever you want to do, but don't waste my time overthinking with you because that's what you're trying to do here. It's very strange.
right.
I want to, and we're going to cut this short in respect to your time here, but, you know, we talk about the traditional, you know, let's say coffee shops and the traditional businesses. I've heard a little bit of your experience when it comes to the ranchers, right? And, you know, Texas Slims of the world and those type of businesses that are now starting to really feed into the Bitcoin economy and really have, you know, sovereign food, sovereign money, that whole thing. Just quickly, if you don't mind, your experience with the ranchers and how's that going for you guys as a company to help the ranchers actually get paid in Bitcoin?
Yeah, it was fun, man. It's been fun. It's been interesting. So how this all started was my co-founder has always been super into like, you know, pure protein and like
Yeah.
no chemicals, none of that. And he heard of Slim. And I myself had started like reading some books on like regenerative ag and like learning about the soil, right? Like stop treating our soil like dirt. Like this is
Yeah.
the foundation of civilization, right? Like the money and the soil, right?
Yeah.
But my co-founder JP, he started reading Slim stuff, and he's like, "Hey, man, we need to get in touch with this guy. We can help him. Like, we can help with this." And it just so happened, like, we're like, "Oh yeah, we will." And he reached out and everything. And then it just happened. Kyle Murphy from Boston Bitcoin Club. He was like, "Hey, I got someone that wants to talk to you, Texas Slim." So he introduced us, and we just hit it off. We're like, "Yeah, man, like we can help provide some sort of market for you and beef producers, and hopefully an incentive for people to go out and like shake the rancher's hand and get things going, right?" And then we eventually met up with Cole from KNC Cattle. We got him set up, and there's actually still no deals on Oshi yet. We're working on that, and the reason I say that is because there's a lot of proof of work that goes into this.
Yeah.
Like to do it right.
And to what part? All of it, or like what do you
So
mean?
like think about distribution. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like, okay, you could sell these cows, but like, what is their back end ordering system? Like, how are they distributing this beef? Like, okay, let's say we pump this out and we get a shit ton of beef sold. Like, do we want to drown this rancher that's never ever seen volumes like this before? There's a ton of work that goes on behind the scenes and like getting their systems up to speed. Like, you think they have the, you know, top tier online commerce things go? No, man. Like, so we've been doing a lot of work on that. We've been trying to make it seamless. We're trying to do it right. And fortunately, we should have some boxes on Oshi very soon with some interesting incentives. Maybe sell some full cows, half cows, quarter cows on Oshi for Bitcoin. But I mean, just I guess to get back to more of your question. So for now, it's been a lot of work. And Slim's been doing awesome work. JP's been working with all these different ranchers too, in terms of getting their tech stack up to snuff. But just going there and being able to say, Bitcoiners like beef, and they value your work, and they value you, and they understand your plight, and they understand that, you know, they want to support you. Like, they want to support you. So whenever you go to these ranches, we say, "Hey, we just got like KNC pushed out there in the Bitcoin community, loved it, and they saw a massive increase in their sales."
Nice.
That's powerful. Doesn't take too much more than that, man. So you start talking with them. Again, it's all consulting, free consulting. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you use now? Like, what are your volumes? You know, how do you do your ordering? Do you deliver locally, farmers market, like regionally? You know,
Yeah.
I would just say there's just a ton that goes into it. Slim's out there pounding pavement, pounding pasture,
Yeah.
knocking on
legit.
doors, shaking hands. there's a lot, man. I don't know if I fully like answer your question. Maybe
Yeah.
be more specific, but yeah, there's there's a lot.
No, yeah, I just wanted to know like your connection with there, but that definitely answered the question. And yeah, I'm super excited. I've definitely gotten I have a history of I was overweight, lost a shitload of pounds, like half my body weight literally,
Nice.
and then now I'm kind of working on it. But it's kind of like that whole concept of shake your rancher's hand that's kind of got me back to not necessarily carnivore, but just eat like my ancestors ate, right? Like just basically like just be realistic and say, like let's use peanuts for an example. I'll be damned if our ancestors had enough time or the amount of peanuts that you get on a regular coffee table nowadays. It's just crazy. So just being more realistic about my diet, but meat and proteins, and especially Slim's message, has really resonated with me and has helped me out and has made me understand. I was talking to my dad, who's an older guy, this past weekend, and just to circle back to the healthcare thing, he basically told me that like, hey, I got my labs ran or whatever, and my doctor was basically telling me that I shouldn't eat red meat, and I'm just like, whoa, buddy, like. The incentives that lady has to tell you that versus what red meat can actually do for you, we need to have a conversation. So we talked about it. I introduced him to Slim's work. He's just, just Puerto Rican, not immigrant because Puerto Ricans are citizens, but just somebody who came from Puerto Rico when we were younger and just has been grinding it since he's gotten here. Grade A citizen, doing the very best he can. And the fact that he's going to fall victim or is falling victim to the healthcare system that's basically saying, hey, this real food that you're supposed to be having is not what you're supposed to be having. Because like you said earlier, the incentive is to get you back here every few months to give you more prescriptions and basically just delay your death, if that's the thing. Slim and what you're doing and what everybody's doing is basically just like how not only I save myself, but how I can save my family when it comes to my parents and the people that are still plugged into the matrix, as people like to say.
Hell yes.
So yeah, man, that's a long-winded answer to say. I just wanted to know a little bit more about, with how you guys are helping there, but
and like
across the board,
Slim like really cares. Like,
I could tell.
He's not fucking around. I mean, he like always, whenever you first start working with somebody, like, you're feeling it out. Like you're trying to see, especially in the Bitcoin space, you're always like, are you for real? Like, is this not for real? And you kind of tiptoe around some things. You figure stuff out, right? Nah, he means this. Like, he means this. I mean, he's been working hard at this for like at least 6 or 7 months, like hard. I think it's been more than that. I don't know when it all started, but, we've been kind of right there with him, following along, and he's just doing an awesome job. And like I said, he means it. Like what you said about like really fixing the food and fixing our health.
Yeah.
He cares about that. Like it's real. So it's really exciting. Also, I just actually got off the phone like a couple hours before this. I got a barbecue place, San Juan Smokehouse. I think it's San Juan Smokehouse. They were accepting crypto, but they weren't doing Lightning yet. So I was like, hey, let me get you set up. Let me get you set up with the real good thing. And then we'll help promote you and we'll get things going. And I'll just say like some of the connections you make from just talking to these people, like these business owners, like they know people, like they know other business owners, like they have leverage in their community. These people want to help. And again, like, I think there's this segment, you mentioned something like earlier in the podcast. It's like, who is this for, right? It's like, it's for everyone, man. I don't care if they come to me and go, hey, man, I think XRP is going to the moon. Like, this guy did not say that, but I'm just saying in general. Like, I think XRP is going to the moon. Like, and I'm like, cool. Do you want to accept Bitcoin over Lightning? Like, just nod. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to accept Bitcoin over Lightning and offer Bitcoin rewards to your customers? Or even just accept Bitcoin? I don't care. Use Oshi. Don't use Oshi. Let's get you plugged into the only money that matters.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not here to tell them about why Bitcoin is the greatest financial tool and monetary network in the history of the world. I'm not here to tell them that. I'm just here to say, look, do you want to get set up? Do you want to bring in new customers? Do you want to keep them coming back? And do you want to stash some Bitcoin? I don't care if you're a hardcore Bitcoiner or a hardcore shitcoiner. I'm going to get you set up with Bitcoin. Like, I've literally had business go, hey, when are you going to start accepting Shiba Inu? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, no, we won't do that. We're just Bitcoin. Like, why? Like, I think The Bitcoin maximalist stuff. I mean, I fully subscribe to that. Like, whatever. I'm just saying, like, I think sometimes we perceive ignorance as malice. A lot of these people, they don't have a freaking clue what's going on. Because I literally talk with these people that aren't on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they're like, what about Dogecoin? Can you accept Doge? Like, this person has no clue what Bitcoin even is or Dogecoin. Like, they're just genuinely curious.
Right.
And I tell them, like, even consumers sometimes, they're like, well, are you going to start accepting other cryptocurrencies? It's just a genuine question. And I could be like, you shitcoiner. Like, but no, they really they just don't know. So I'm like, look, Bitcoin is the only thing that makes sense because it has the best infrastructure built around it. It has the liquidity, and it's the only thing that I would ever feel comfortable and confident in recommending to small businesses who are already taking enough risk as it is and being entrepreneurs and trying to provide value for their community, right?
Right.
Why the fuck would I recommend Dogecoin?
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the fact that, like, literally, I would never. But, like, framing it in a certain way like that, man. So, that's how we build, like, this Bitcoin economy. People are so ignorant. It's all up to education and just showing them. We do enough telling, we got to show.
And the free market will ultimately decide for them, meaning that if they're taking all these cryptocurrencies and, they use Oshi to get Bitcoin, well, you're going to notice that most of your customers, your new ones at least, are paying in Bitcoin and not paying in Ethereum or any other fucking bullshit coin.
Exactly.
So even if they don't take your word for it, action speaks, right? Like, how many of your new customers are Bitcoin clients, right? Versus the other shit coins.
That's right.
So that's a very fascinating thing. I mean, we could tackle this from millions of angles.
Oh yeah, the list goes on, man. But it's just making it like little bite-sized pieces to leave them, right? Like, you could either, I love this analogy. Like, you ever given like a dog or a cat like a pill?
Not personally, no, but go ahead.
So you basically had to, like, pull their head back, open their mouth, and freaking shove that thing down their throat, and shut their mouth, shut their snout, right? And then you just telling them, like, swallow, 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 come on, like rubbing their throat and shit.
Yeah.
That's what we try to do to people whenever we give them the orange pill. We're like shoving it down their throat. We don't even let them talk. Shut your mouth. Like,
I'm guilty of that.
Listen,
100%.
Not me too.
Yeah.
But we gotta put it in a pill pocket. We gotta put it in a hot dog. And they will want to eat that thing.
Yeah.
Like, we have not comparing business owners or individuals to dogs, but we have to, like, frame it differently. We have to show them how it's helpful and beneficial for them now without them actually having to understand. Like, the Bitcoin maximalists, myself included, we understand this on a deep level, or we understand as much as we can. Like, Bitcoin's crazy, right? There's so much more to understand. But, like, so now it's our time to show people what we've learned without necessarily making sure that they, like, read, like, all of Graduate and suddenly. I wish they would read the Bitcoin Standard, read Atlas Shrugged, listen to all these podcasts, like, listen to every single, like, like Guy Swan, right? Like, listen to every single, like, I wish they would, but they're literally just struggling to make ends meet, and a monetary system that is working against them. The cost of food is going up, the labor cost, energy cost, all their materials, supplies, it's all going up. Their energy costs, everything is going up. They don't have a whole lot of time to sit here and dive into, like, what is Bitcoin?
Yeah.
We just need to be like, yo, let me help you. Let me put this orange pill in a hot dog because you're hungry. You're hungry for something that's going to save you, but you don't have the time to realize why it's going to save you. Let's just wrap this thing up in incentives and rewards and make it cheaper and more cost effective for you as a business. And it's a Trojan horse. We got a Trojan horse orange pill, people.
I'm about to say, you just compared a hot dog to a Trojan horse, but that's magic right there. Those are magical words. Oh, man. All right, Michael, is there anything we missed here before we sign off, or anything you want to plug in? Or
I think we're good, man. I really appreciate you having me on. I love just shooting the shit, talking about Bitcoin circular economies and everything else. Feel like we got some things off my chest today too, man. Like, I told my story about as a nurse. Like, we got into it. This was great.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Appreciate your time. And let's not make this the last time, man. Let's make this a recurring thing here where you come on, friend of the show for sure. Please let the listeners know where they can follow you, where they can get Oshi or follow Oshi, wherever it is you want to point them.
Yeah, absolutely. So on Twitter, I'm at Doota. It's my last name, at DOOOWTA. You can check out Oshi app on Twitter as well. And yeah, I mean, that's really it. Download the app, check it out. I would love some feedback. Like I said, we're a tiny team. Hit me with the feedback. Tell me how great it is. Tell me how shitty it is. Let me know. We'll fix it.
Feedback is great. Makes the product. That's a good thing.
That's right.
All right, Michael. Thank you. I appreciate you. For the listeners, that wraps up episode 70, a fantastic episode. Per usual, if you got any value out of this conversation, then our favorite way for you to show us that love, Fountain, Podcasting 2.0 apps, but I like Fountain, Breeze, however you want. You could give us a boost. We'll read it here live on the show. Just like Michael said, you could tell us through a boost if the show was absolute crap. We'll try to fix it. You could tell us if it's great. Either way, we appreciate the love. Bitcoin TV is where you can get this awesome 4K content. And if you do want to follow us on the legacy outlets, YouTube, Spotify, all that, then you could just do the good old-fashioned share, subscribe, and rate, and that'll help us go a very long way to get this Bitcoin orange-pilling information out to the masses, and we can spread the word. We appreciate you guys as always. Michael, appreciate you, good sir.
Thank you.
That wraps up episode 70. Later, y'all.